In this chapter, we're going to learn about mixtures. A mixture is not a molecule or a compound. It's not happening when two or more substances combine chemically to form a new substance with new properties. That's a chemical reaction happening. We're not dealing with that right now. We're going to deal with mixtures. That happens when two or more substances do not combine chemically and can be separated by physical means. Those physical means to separate things are settling, straining or filtering, distilling it, or in the case of dyes, it could be chromatography, separating dye colors. There are three types of mixtures. The first is a solution. A solution is an evenly mixed mixture. That means it's the same throughout. If you take a sample from the top, the middle, or the bottom, you'll have the same substance. The particles dissolve in a solution. They don't disappear, they just dissolve between the other molecules. However, the individual properties do remain. In a suspension, we have an unevenly mixed mixture. It is not the same throughout. You take a sample from the top, the middle, or the bottom, you might get different substances. The particles do not dissolve. They settle. They either settle to the bottom or they will float to the top. However, just like a solution, the individual properties do remain. In a colloid, we have an evenly mixed mixture with particles that do not dissolve or settle to the bottom. It's kind of a mixture. It's evenly mixed, like a solution, but the particles don't dissolve, like a suspension. However, the particles don't settle to the bottom, so it's neither a solution nor a suspension. It's kind of in between. An example of a colloid is milk. Milk has particles like fats that do not dissolve, but also do not settle to the bottom. All solutions have two parts. The solute, that is the substance being dissolved, and the solvent, that's the substance that the solute is being dissolved into. An example of a solute is Kool-Aid mix. The Kool-Aid mix is dissolved into a solvent, water. Another example of something dissolving in something else is chocolate syrup, which can be dissolved into milk. The purpose of this lab is to investigate solutions and suspensions. What we know already is that mixtures occur when two or more substances do not combine chemically. Mixtures can be described as either solutions, suspensions, or colloids. Solutions have two parts, a solute and a solvent. You can use the materials at your table to determine whether two powdered solids dissolve in water or not. If your team is an odd number, you're mixing sand, that's one powdered solid, and sodium chloride, also called table salt, in water. If you have an even numbered table number, you're doing iron filings and ammonium chloride, all mixed with water. Follow the procedure and put your observations on the data table. When setting up your data table, you need to have certain headings for each of the columns. First, we need the beaker, because we have two beakers, beaker A and beaker B. We also want which liquid is being put in each beaker, as well as which powdered solid is in each beaker. We also want to make initial observations. That means observations before anything is put in the beakers. So what does the solid look like and the water look like before the mixture is made? We also want to see observations after the mixture is made. Your final observations are step 7, when you mix beaker A and beaker B together. The first substance being put into 40 milliliters of water is sand. After mixing everything together, we can see that the sand doesn't dissolve, it just settles to the bottom. Here, sodium chloride is being added to 40 milliliters of water. After mixing, you can see that the sodium chloride has dissolved in the water. Here are iron filings put into 40 milliliters of water. After mixing, you can see the iron filings do not dissolve. They settle to the bottom. Finally, ammonium chloride is being added to 40 milliliters of water. After mixing, you can see the ammonium chloride dissolved in the water. When the salt water is poured into the sand and water and mixed up, you can see that we have a mixture that is both a solution and a suspension. Salt is dissolved in the water, but the sand is not. When the ammonium chloride and water solution is poured into the iron filings in water and mixed up, you can also see that there's a solution and a suspension. This mixture has iron filings in the bottom, and the ammonium chloride is dissolved in the water.